This billionaire inspired Gordon Gekko.
This is not an honest guy, and this is not a guy who keeps his word, and this is a guy who takes advantage of little people.
And he isn't afraid to stir the pot.
I said it before, and I'll say it again. He's screwed more people than Casanova.
Never shy, Carl Icahn has nonetheless unlocked a ton of value for shareholders. His returns have even rivaled Buffett's. And portfolio insiders breaking down Carl Icahn's background, his most famous showdowns, and where he's investing in 2021. Before he became one of the 25 richest people on the planet, Icahn grew up in Far Rockaway, over an hour by subway from Wall Street. Asked about where he grew up, Icahn said, "Those streets were mean." He studied at Princeton, enrolled in NYU Medical School, then dropped out and joined the Army. Looking back, Icahn joked, "One of the greatest things I did for the human race was not become a doctor." In 1961, Dreyfus & Company hired him as a $100 a week stockbroker, and in 1968, he started Icahn & Company. Icahn & Company started as a discount options brokerage, but saw more money in arbitrage. The firm would find price discrepancies between common stocks, convertible notes, and stock warrants from the same company. Icahn and early right-hand man Alfred Kingsley moved on to closed-end mutual funds, looking for symbols trading at the biggest discounts from net asset value. They would buy shares, then also short it to influence the market to close the gap. But eventually, Icahn grew impatient with waiting for markets to correct, and he realized he could take matters into his own hands. In 1976, he outlined what biographer Mark Stevens called the Icahn Manifesto in a letter to shareholders, writing, "It is our contention that sizable profits can be earned by taking large positions in undervalued stocks, and then attempting to control the destinies of the companies in question by A. Trying to convince management to liquidate or sell the company to a white knight, B. Waging a proxy contest, C. Making a tender offer, or D. Selling back our position to the company." This letter would define a turning point in Carl Icahn's investing career and put him at odds with companies and other billionaires. His earliest showdowns included a hostile takeover of TWA in 1985 and a 50% return when Viacom bought back Icahn's shares. Other investors called his Viacom approach greenmail, where companies would pay a premium to buy back shares. The SEC banned this practice in 1987, the same year the movie Wall Street was released in theaters. Wall Street screenwriter Stanley Weiser claimed that Gordon Gekko was partially based on Carl Icahn's exploits as a corporate raider. Legend has it one of Gekko's most famous lines was based on an Icahn saying, "If you want a friend on Wall Street, get a dog." It's a line Icahn would repeat in his famous feud with Bill Ackman, who now runs Pershing Square Capital. The two butted heads on CNBC over Hallwood Realty, a company Bill Ackman flipped to Icahn. Gotham Partners had shorted MBIA for being leveraged 150 to 1, and Ackman was under investigation by New York Attorney General Eliot Spitzer. After Ackman said he wasn't an honest guy, Icahn recalled,
He wanted to have dinner once with me. I had dinner with him, and I got to tell you, I left. I couldn't figure out if he was the most sanctimonious guy I ever met in my life or the most arrogant. And that's Ackman. I never said that I want to be friends with you, Bill. I wouldn't be friends with
Carl.
you. And I would. You said to
Carl.
me, you'd like to be friends so that we could invest together.
Carl, I have no interest. Do you think I want to invest with you? Okay, let's
I
move
would
on.
invest with you.
Let's
you
move
were
on.
the last man on earth.
CNBC invited the two onto a show because Bill Ackman had famously shorted Herbalife. Carl Icahn bought shares in a short squeeze that had been one of the most famous in the history of finances until the meme stocks GameStop and AMC this year. At the time, HLF was trading at about $45. By the time Ackman closed his short position in 2018, shares were trading around $92, and Pershing Square had lost close to $1 billion. Icahn closed his Herbalife position just weeks ago in May 2021, up over 200%. By the mid-2010s, the billionaire rebranded himself as a champion of shareholder value. And PayPal is perhaps the most famous example of Icahn unlocking shareholder value. This time, early internet pioneer turned venture capitalist Mark Andreessen was on the opposite side and didn't hold back his feelings about it.
He lies, like he just makes stuff up. He slanders, like it's the full, like There's a reason, like, his inner 6-year-old comes out.
With Andreessen having broken a prior non-disparagement agreement, Icahn let loose.
He's a quintessential guy that I say is what's wrong with corporate America. I mean, he screwed more people than Casanova.
In October of 2014, eBay announced that they would indeed spin off PayPal. And while eBay's market cap growth has hardly changed since the June 2016 spinoff, PayPal's has shot up at a 45% compound annual growth rate. Icahn's reputation has even resulted in companies doing what he wants before he asks. Family Dollar began talks to sell to Dollar Tree before Icahn could start a proxy fight, and his presence deterred Dollar General from attempting a hostile takeover. Gannett Company also beat him to the punch, ultimately keeping the publishing arm under the original name and spinning off the broadcasting arm into a company now called Tegna Inc. Asked about why he's an activist investor, Icahn had this to say.
I really believe that this country, one of the great problems we're going to have looking ahead is because corporate governance, with exceptions, is completely dysfunctional. All you have to do is really, I mean, and it's not simple, but all you have to do is get in there, get involved with these boards, change a lot of the things going on, and you have a much better company, and you have assets that will be much more productive for our society, where we would take care of some of the ills.
Where is Carl Icahn investing in 2021? His largest holding is Icahn Enterprises, with IEP making up almost half of Icahn's $23 billion 13F portfolio. Paying a $2 quarterly dividend against a $50 to $60 share price, IEP's 14% dividend yield is one of the most generous on the market. Icahn's self-titled holding company is essentially his version of Berkshire Hathaway, holding wholly owned subsidiaries like Pep Boys, Amco, PSC Metals, and CVR Energy, which we'll cover later in the video. And Icahn hasn't been shy about comparing himself to the Oracle of Omaha. He once lamented, "I don't understand why I don't get a premium and Warren Buffett does." From 1968 through 2011, Icahn produced a 31% annual return compared to Buffett's 20%. Occidental Petroleum is Icahn's second biggest holding, making up 9.6% of his portfolio. And OXY serves as a case study for the stark contrast between Carl Icahn and Warren Buffett. Interviewed about Warren's hands-off approach with Coca-Cola, Icahn said,
I think many too many of our companies are badly run. They're run by mediocre CEOs and should be made accountable. And I believe that if we don't do this,
well,
that's my passion. My passion. I think Warren Buffett should do more of that.
Without mentioning Icahn specifically, Buffett called out corporate raiders and the green mail practice that Icahn used to employ in his 1984 letter to shareholders, writing, "Perhaps that's part of why Occidental Petroleum turned to Buffett to fund their acquisition of Anadarko and its Permian Basin shale holdings. The debt and dilution effectively served as a poison pill against both Icahn and any other potential acquirers." In return, Buffett received premium shares that paid an 8% dividend plus stock warrants for $1.2 billion worth of additional shares. Icahn blasted OXY CEO Vicky Holub, writing, "In my opinion, Buffett figuratively took her to the cleaners." T. Rowe Price also criticized Holub, who defended the Anadarko transaction, arguing, "Our greater fiduciary responsibility from a governance standpoint for our shareholders was to make this deal happen." After 2 years of fighting as the share price fell, Occidental agreed to name 3 of Icahn's nominees to its board of directors. And as oil prices continue to creep upwards, Occidental shares are now trading over 75% higher than a year ago. Icahn's third biggest position is CVR Energy, currently making up 5.72% of his portfolio. The company's 2 lines of business are petroleum refining and nitrogen fertilizers. Originally acquired in 2011 with an eye towards finding buyers, CVR Energy has since stolen a page from Icahn's playbook, quietly building up a 15% stake in rival refiner Delek. Like the billionaire owner of their parent company, CVI has since initiated a proxy fight for seats on Delek's board. Despite headwinds the past year, energy demand has increased as the economy continues to recover. And high commodity prices in the agriculture sector help fertilizer manufacturers as well. With recognizable brands like Papermate, Sharpie, Expo, Elmer's, Oster, Rubbermaid, and Sunbeam, New Oil Brands Incorporated has been one of the top performers for Icahn. NWL share prices have risen 108% the past 12 months, boosted even further by the company's 3.3% dividend yield. Portfolio Insider last tracked Carl Icahn holding a $1.17 billion stake in Newell, and the company's products are positioned to sell as schools and offices reopen. LNG is the fifth highest owned stock in Carl Icahn's portfolio, with $1.16 billion worth of shares, making up 4.88% of his holdings. Cheniere Energy has rallied 40% since the beginning of this year and 83% year over year. Portfolio Insider projects the company for a 37% leap in revenue and a 1,200% improvement in earnings per share this year. But it wouldn't be an Icahn holding without a conflict, and Cheniere is fighting former CEO Sharif Souki over accusations he stole plans for a new LNG export terminal. Icahn's other investments include two companies he's trying to find buyers for, Caesars Entertainment and Cloudera. And he's even eyeing a $1 billion cryptocurrency investment in Bitcoin or Ethereum. In a recent Bloomberg interview, Icahn was asked about crypto and responded,
I'm looking at the whole business. I'm not looking at what to buy necessarily at this time. I'm just looking at the whole business and how I might get involved in it with Icahn Enterprises in a relatively big way. Because I do think it's here to stay in one form or another.
Ultimately, Carl Icahn wants to be remembered for his charitable donations. In signing the Giving Pledge, formed by Bill Gates in 2010, he noted he's already sponsored the Icahn Scholars Program at Choate Rosemary Hall, the Choate Science Center, Princeton's Institute for Integrated Genomics, the Icahn Medical Institute at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, the Icahn House for Homeless Women, Icahn Stadium on Randall Island, and Icahn Charter Schools. After moving his headquarters from the GM building in New York City to sunny Florida, does Icahn plan to stop anytime soon? Fellow billionaire T. Boone Pickens asked him on a podcast.
You're not going to retire, are you? No, I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
Portfolio Insider won't stop either. Comment down below if there's a billionaire you want us to cover next.